Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. We're on X on Atlantic TV Net. We'll go on a break. When we get back, I'll introduce my guests and we'll dive right into the report. Please stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honourable
You human trafficking.
Honourable they are not picking our calls. They made up their mind.
So no agreement with the EU, but
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
so no agreement with the EU, but welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. Here with me in the studio to dive into this report is Chukwusi Ikechukwu, Public Affairs Analyst. We're so glad to have you join us again.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let's go right into the reports. Lagos State approved 2025 budget has sparked concerns after revelations showed that more funds were allocated for lawmakers' vehicles, generators, and assembly renovations than for erosion and flood control, even as residents continue to grapple with devastating flash floods. According to the breakdown, the Lagos State House of Assembly set aside 20.6 billion naira for vehicles, including 40 backup vehicles, 40 utility buses, and 40 official cars. The budget also earmarked 4.5 billion naira for 50 kVA generators and 50 kVA generators and 11 billion naira for major renovations of the assembly complex covering gate houses, car parks, and the main building. Another 30 billion naira was allocated for a new fence, a landscaping, beautification, and an access road. Altogether, this project will consume 65 billion naira, nearly double the 33 billion naira budgeted for erosion and flood control. This comes as flash floods continue to ravage parts of Lagos this week. On Tuesday, heavy rainfall left several communities in Mushin submerged, with roads impassable and businesses disrupted. Traders, motorists, and residents lamented severe financial losses as vehicles were stranded and commercial activity ground to a halt in waterlogged areas. On Wednesday last week, the Lagos State government apologized to affected residents for large portions of the city remained paralyzed following the downpour. My brother does live in Lagos, and it has not been a funny experience given the rain and how bad it has been with commuting. What are your thoughts on
the inhumane nature of those who have been serving the duty of leading the people and the schools? There is no sane society with right-thinking leaders who care about the people that would budget for personal effect much more than, the budget for personal effect is higher than the budget for flood control. It's even more troubling when you consider the history of Lagos and floods.
Right.
Flooding in Lagos is not just a prediction. If I tell you that in 2026 parts of Lagos will be flooded, I shouldn't get an award for that. Because it is something we have lived with over the years, because it is a known history that Lagos is below sea level. So the moment it trains to a certain level, or and the place is flooded, the water just comes naturally to place. And this is not isolated cases. Even in the most exquisite areas of Lagos, like the highbrow areas of Lekki, and the rest of them get flooded. In fact, it soon get flooded there, you begin to wonder, what is it about?
Given the exorbitant rates that houses are being rented in.
Now, for a state that have this history, you would have thought that flood control every year would be a priority. Beyond the temporary flood control, you would have even thought that government would have been, sponsoring research to see how, if possible, have a permanent solution to flooding issue in the state. But alas, that's not the case in Nigeria. The government would rather engage in frivolities. These guys budgeted such amount of money for cars, had cars before. And when I say have cars, I don't mean they have some low cars. They have exorbitant. Provision for them to cushion even the hardship that has become entrenched as a result of the party they all belong to, as a result of the misgovernance of their party. They don't have any cushion for their workers. Some of them, if you give them companies to run, now the first thing they will do is to remove every allowance that belongs to the workers. Yet, they are working for government with half pay, with heavy pay, and they are giving themselves allowances that are unknown to history. Where in the world do people get generator? You get allowance for a generator. You're budgeting for fencing. I mean, it's terrible.
Is that the most? This budget, is it the most important thing that Lagosians need? Now, I want to ask you this based off of the fact that you lived in Lagos for a very long time, right? Do you think that this is the most pressing thing that needs to be fixed? These generators,
it can be. The news even compared it with flooding. We have not talked of education. No matter how much they would claim they have budgeted for education, education, as far as I know, in Lagos State still require funding, and indeed in every part of the country. Now, in other climes, even where government has successfully taken care of the government-owned schools, they even make funds available for private schools, because they understand that even such schools are helping to solve societal problem. Even if it be like a loan, but just make something available, even if it be as a support to the teachers in those schools who are poorly paid. You have healthcare. Healthcare is in shambles. Yeah, Lagos healthcare may be a little bit better than when you compare to some other states, but it is not where it should be. No, so we have many areas that this excessive wastage would have been plowed into.
Why do you think this keeps repeating? Especially, you said this is not a, it's not a I am a seer situation where you say it's going to rain and you deserve a clap of hand. So this is an expected thing yearly, especially with the sea levels in Lagos. Now, when these floods happen, it doesn't just affect the poor. Actually, my brother that I mentioned lives in a very good part of Lekki, and you wake up one morning and your chairs are,
floating. You're floating.
And the government did tell people to move away to uplands. But when you say move to uplands, where do they go?
Where are the uplands in Lagos? Maybe the mainland. There are still many parts of mainland, even though they are called mainland, that are still...
So even if you wake up in the morning and leave your house and say, okay, I'm moving with my family and maybe 5 children or 3 children, what happens to their education? What happens to their job? What happens to your job? Because most people take houses close to proximity, especially in Lagos, given the heavy traffic you get to experience, right? When you put all of this into, into perspective, it makes you begin to wonder, right? Since this problem doesn't just affect the poor, it affects the rich, it affects everybody, it affects the policymakers, why do you think critical attention hasn't been given to it at all?
Because we have those who we have saddled the responsibility of making policies, or those who have taken it upon themselves, rather than saying we saddled them, they took it upon themselves to make policies, are people who seem to be bereft of ideas. To say they have run out of ideas, maybe to put it kindly, it would suggest that they probably had ideas before. In clear terms, quite a number of them never had idea what it means to govern. We live in a system where the concept of governance has been reduced to conchop. So when a man thinks of governance and governing position, he's thinking of it's an invitation to, come chop. So he doesn't understand that there's a responsibility that goes with governance. And I'll give you a very good example. Just step into any of our streets and ask anybody, even some of the people you think are right thinking, ask them what is the function of a local government councillor. Even ask a councillor what is the function of a councillor. I bet you quite a number of them don't know what their function is. They think their function is to, to pay for burial levy and give money for naming ceremony for those that supported them during their election. The local government chairman thinks that his function is, we have a crazy situation. So I bet you some of those lawmakers don't even know that they represent the people. They think the only connection between them and the people starts and ends on election day. After election, they are disconnected from the people and don't have anything to do with them again until the next election. So it's a situation where it is not because these things are insurmountable. Let's use the flood situation, the sea level of Lagos. Netherlands, Holland, as a country, is below sea level. They should be suffering from perennial fraud every time. But you see, they have been able to do some things that have saved them. They have been able to build Arada. They've been able to, through technology, save their society from being submerged by sea.
Right.
So we are not even asking for something that has not been done before.
There's a prototype out there.
Absolutely, you can, and even in the same Lagos State, using Babich for example, Babich used to take over the whole of Ahmadu Bello Way and beyond. But you know, after some time ago, somebody did something. You know, there was some sort of a wedge holding back the scene. Now, even though the Babich question may not have been completely solved, but the ferocity has been reduced. So we are not talking of template that has not been. We are not talking about inventing the wheel. Or something. No, it's a wheel that has already been invented. It's about going out there and knowing how these people did it and copy the same thing. Adjust it to your own system, and so all the things we ask of governance.
Right.
But how be it? When I use the word ask, I use the word ask carefully, because that's another issue with the Nigerian system. Nigerians don't demand enough of those who govern them, and even when demands are made. And I talked about the councillors thinking that what there is, it's because people also act strongly. I think it also comes to the citizen. Most of the Nigerian citizen does not understand what it means to be a citizen. They don't understand that citizenship comes with a right, as it comes with a responsibility. When I say I am a citizen, I don't just mean I was born in Nigeria.
Right.
My grandparents, as defined by the Nigerian Constitution, my grandparents were people born in Nigeria before October 1st, 1960. It goes beyond that. It goes to the fact that I have a political right. I have a right to be protected. I have a right to certain provisions from say, akin to this is what happened in the ancient Greek city system, where not everybody that lived in Greek was a citizen. Citizens have some rights, but this is something many Nigerians have not come to internalize. If we internalize it, maybe we would demand more, and maybe we would be able to check some of these excesses. I mean, it staggers my imagination. And you know, the thing is that Lagos is even one of the most advanced states.
Right.
Even when you talk of political sophistication or the expectance of the citizens, you have more enlightened citizens in Lagos. So if this type of thing can happen in Lagos, you can imagine what would happen in Ebonyi. You can imagine what would happen in Zamfara, Kebbi, you know, such remote places.
While you talk about you know, enlightened citizens, I want to draw your attention a little bit. Now, this 50 kVA generators, 50 pieces of it has now been bought, and the cars. I did see several videos of cars completely enmeshed.
But sorry, let me take your attention. Now, these guys are thinking of buying generators for themselves. In the past, the state would excuse itself that electricity is in the exclusive list. But generation of electricity is even something states can do now. Rather than these guys thinking of how to generate electricity in Lagos and how to make Lagos self-sufficient for how to make electricity self-sufficient for everybody that lives there, for all the business that lives there, they're thinking of providing electricity
for themselves, which will still stay on the same ground, mounted on the same ground when the flood comes. Are they going to be holding it? With
the attendant environmental pollution that goes with it. No, or maybe they've bought a soundproof generator.
Even if it were soundproof, when the flood comes, where does this generator stay? Where do these cars park? Still in the water where the flood is?
They probably don't think about that. Typical of Nigeria, we just put it out as small time go, or you know, somebody will say, oh, it's an act of God, and you know, we push it back to God.
Really, really sad. Thank you so much for your insight on this report. Kano State Police Command has arrested Matawai Kilo Ibrahim 30 for allegedly stabbing his two grandparents to death during a quarrel over food at Kofa Dawanu quarters. Police spokesperson SP Abdullahi Haruna Kiyawa said the incident was reported at the Dala Divisional Police Headquarters on September 25, 2025, around 9:30 a.m. The victims, identified as Mohammed Dan Sokoto, 75, and Hadiza Tisidi, 65, were attacked with a sharp knife during the altercation. They sustained multiple injuries and were rushed to Muritala Mohammed Specialist Hospital, where they were confirmed dead. Their remains were now examined and later released to their families for burial in line with Islamic rites. SP Kiyawa disclosed that the suspect, who was allegedly under the influence of intoxicant at the time of the incident has been taken into custody. The Commissioner of Police, CP Ibrahim Adamu Bakori, has ordered the transfer of the case to the State Criminal Investigation Department, SCID, Homicide Section, for discreet investigation. The suspects will be charged to court upon conclusion of investigations, police said. We are still talking about drug abuse. Every day we have NAFDAC come to say, oh, we've intercepted this amount of drugs from several states when they do those briefings. When are we going to have an end to this? A 30-year-old man killing his grandparents because of food, is it hardship other than the intoxication of drugs? What do you think this is? Let's talk about it.
When are we going to have an end to this? We probably may not have an end to the question of drug and drug abuse in society. However, we probably can have a reduction. We probably can have a situation where we have more young persons saying no to drugs, okay, and that would come from intensifying our campaign. Some of the drug agencies are probably doing fair enough for this fight, but you see, when something has become a menace, now this is not just in Nigeria, globally, there probably will be no end to it, and you probably would not do enough to take a break. So the thing is, the campaign against drug abuse have to be intensified. And then beyond the campaign also, the avenues, the channels through which drugs comes in should also be blocked, at least as much as possible. You try to block them, which is where the issues of border entry and exit points comes in, the airports, even the roads where these things are transported, you know. So it's for government and its agencies to continue to put effort to ensure that the availability of this item is as much as possible minimized, that it doesn't get to people. And then the campaign against drug taking should also be encouraged. And families on their own should, as much as possible, be, you know, make a conscious effort. Because like I said, this is a demon that probably has come to stay. So there is no need for any family to think that, oh, this is, you know, this is far from our reach. Right. If you have a child, if you have a ward, if you have a neighbor, you know, in Africa we have this concept that a child is raised by the community. So do
we still have that collective community mindset in Africa? In
some cases, yes, but at least you can lend your voice as much as you can. The schools, the religious institutions, the community, the family, everybody have to lend his voice. Then when incidents like this happen, I wish justice should be served. Sympathy shouldn't come in. It shouldn't be a family issue. It shouldn't be, which is why I'm a little bit concerned about the, you know, speedy burial of the victim. Of course, that is in line with Islamic right, but I wonder if it goes to court, if those bodies are needed for evidence, how it's going to play out. Yeah, how it's going to play out and how it's going to affect the case. But I would want a situation where people who have, you know, done this justice should be served.
Right. Thank you so much for your insight on that report. National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, has rescued a 16-year-old domestic worker who was allegedly scalded with hot water by her employer in the Gwarimpa area of Abuja. According to a statement posted on NAPTIP's official Facebook page on Friday, the agency acted following a distress call from neighbors who witnessed the assault. The victim, an indigene of Imo State and the 8th of 12 children, was hired to care for her employer's 3 children, including 2-month-old twins and a 7-year-old boy. Neighbors rushed her to a nearby hospital before contacting NAPTIP, which immediately intervened. Reports indicate that the girl was deliberately doused with hot water by her employer. Alert neighbors quickly moved her to a medical facility and notified NAPTIP, prompting a rapid rescue operation, the agency has confirmed. NAPTIP has launched a full-scale investigation and promised that the perpetrators will be punished. The case adds to a disturbing trend of domestic violence cases in Nigeria involving hot water attacks, which have left victims with life-threatening injuries or even led to fatalities in recent years. Usually when we talk about domestic violence, many people think it's a dispute between spouses, you know, and all of those. What are your thoughts on this report?
So many things in that story set the bell ringing in my head.
Right.
The number of children from the victim's family, 12. That's something in today's. I mean, in a system where those with small families are finding it difficult to cope. Talk of somebody. I mean, if I even talk of people having large family, it would have probably been difficult for me to imagine a large family to get to 12 number. That's a dozen. That's more like if they were home, it would have been like the 12th tribe of Israel. More than a football team.
Right.
So this, you see, raises more questions than one. There are many issues that have to we still grapple with in these countries. In a system where the economic system makes it difficult for even those earning well and with a small family to live comfortably. Talk of somebody who's probably not earning well, having 12 children. So it says something. Questions like, issues like family planning. I don't know where the government stopped about that. There was a time it used to be, there seems to be a campaign about it. I mean, as children, even without knowing what family planning was, the word wasn't completely strange to us. So I think even it shouldn't just be a city campaign for those living in the city, even those living in rural areas. Yes, you probably still live with the belief that the God that gave you yam will give you the knife to cut it. So the God that gave children will provide what it takes to train them. Now, and this is not disputing the place of God, that God will not provide for you, but I'm trying to be careful with words now, but it also suggests that as a person, you have a responsibility to play. I mean, with raising children, it is not the more the merrier.
Back in the day, you'd agree that many people had a dozen or more, like you said. Many people had more children, 15.
That was a different era.
That was a different era because then children were had maybe to go to, join the family in farming.
Absolutely.
And all of that and help around. Which, if you look at it now, is...
and the demand to take care of them. I mean, you could take care of your family with everything that comes from your farm. You didn't need...
Exactly.
Probably you didn't need to buy televisions. The few things you needed to buy, maybe clothing and,
clothing. Oh, and the dresses were usually passed down.
Absolutely,
so, right.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, when you look at it like that, and you're just talking about family planning, and probably our voices aren't being amplified enough. I had a guest, I think it was last week, come on the show, and he did mention that oftentimes poor people have more children because that's the only way they know how to relax. Right. Do you think that could be a situation that leads people to having many children? This guy was probably sent all the way from Imo State to Abuja to cater for 16, a set of twins, and a 7-year-old. And do you think it's because her family could not just afford to keep her at home, maybe to give her an education, to take care of her? That is why this was done.
Yes, that's actually part of it. I'm talking about poor people giving more children, giving birth to more children because they don't have, that's the only way they know to relax. That seems to be the truth. But in terms of relaxing, if that is the only way, I wouldn't want to, tell people not to relax through sexual affairs, especially for couples who are married. Like I would always say, I'm not one to regulate people's, private life and all those. But one can suggest as much as you want to relax, in today's world, knowing that relaxation also comes with the consequences, which, I always tell people in today's world, the concept of unwanted pregnancy should be minimized as much as possible. Because unlike in the past, that, you just had no option than to have sex. Now, if you must have sex, you have ways of going about it that the end product must not be the creation of a new human being. I mean, they are, from the basic use of condom and other contraceptives you can use. So that's why maybe campaign also comes in knowledge is beyond the poverty. I think it's also there is also the place of knowledge. If that family knows that they can have, they can have their conjugal affairs and have some contraceptive around them to avoid having more children than they planned for. Maybe it could also help them. Then also, I think, this issue of, if you look at the age of this child, she's
16.
16.
Right.
That's a minor.
That's a minor.
I think we also should also tighten our noose on issues of
How
labor.
do we get to tighten, which was you're not bringing me, going fully into the story. How do we get to tighten the news on child labor? Because her parents were probably not forced. The parents are adults. But the parents did give their consent. So because this is not an isolated case, several cases of this.
It doesn't matter whether it was consensual or not. If the law says this is wrong and goes ahead to implement it, it may not stop it, but it would reduce it. And there are ways to know. Some time ago, I noticed that you find immigration officers along the roads, interviewing travelers, especially underage, knowing where you're going to, who you are going to, and all that. Probably stop some of those, more like nipping it in the bud. I think we can also, it also comes to enlightenment. People should also be enlightened to know that. I mean, there are a whole lot of challenges and dangers that come with having an underage child in your care that is not your own child, forced labor. Apart from the fact that, apart from the issues of abuse, even where a child is taken care of, we have had cases where some of these children got pregnant. So, for me, if you ask me, I would suggest that anybody that needs help, if you can't take care of your family, which is not out of place, I mean taking care of them in terms of meeting the domestic need, not financial need now, but it's understandable given where we are today in the world, people go to work and all those things. It's better you employ somebody who is of age.
So do you think that if we had a regulatory agency that you can, the way in more civilized climes you sign up for a nanny or a help assistant through an agency, right? You hardly have access to, sometimes in some countries you have the Mexican doing this, different people from different...
We have recruitment agencies even in Nigeria, but those recruitment agencies themselves, you see, it also goes to how we handle things in this country. How are those people... Is there a monitoring from the government? The government may not be the one doing all the recruitment for everybody, but those recruitment agencies, is there a monitoring for them? When you talk of recruitment agencies, apart from the issues of underage and the abuse, there are even those recruited by them. There is a whole lot of sharp practices that goes with most of these recruitment agencies. Only a few of them act with humane, are humane in the way they deal with the employees, in the way they train them. For them, it's just a business and nothing more. They don't care about the humans that they forward, that they send forth for people to work. So I think there's a whole lot we need to do about childcare and nanny. Maybe it's something that should even attract, at this point, I think it should have even attracted the interest of lawmakers if they are interested. Some of these things can be properly, it may not be easy, but you can have a system that would, check this, that will make it difficult for people to have underage working for them. I mean, if there is a consequence, if people know that there is a consequence, but here we don't have such consequences. The only consequences come when there is an abuse, especially abuse that is, like, most of the times they are abused, but nobody says anything. The neighbors don't care, except in situations like this, yeah. If that abuse was, maybe the child was beaten, sent outside to sleep for a few hours, not properly fed, everybody will feel like it's okay and move on. But the thing is that beyond the abuse, the most important abuse most of these people go through is there is a permanent wound, not physical wound, a psychological wound that is embedded into their mind, that tomorrow, some of them, even if they make fortune, there is still this thing about them. It's as if it has been ingrained in their system that this is your place in society. And this is something that should give everybody some concern. Right,
now let's talk about, we have the Child Rights Act, Violence Against People Prohibition, and all of this. We have the laws that are supposed to be guiding, especially young people like this. These perpetrators that carried out this act, how many times have we followed through to know the eventuality of these cases to act as a deterrent to other people. You know, when this has happened, this lady wasn't named. There are no images to show that this is the exact person. And oftentimes this just slips through like one of those discussions. Prosecution, you know, it's not seen like the way you see certain cases that you see that, okay, this person is currently in court. If you remember clearly, the man that killed that lady in Abuja, the gospel artist, it was open to show that, okay, he has now been sentenced to death, even though the action itself has not been carried out. But that was kind of like an open investigation. You can say, okay, someone asks me about that case just now as a person. I'll say, oh, he's been sentenced to death already. The man that killed Salome has been sentenced. Why don't we have that sort of prototype and blueprint in cases like this where you actually see, you get to know what happens to this person? So somebody will be like, okay, other than the fact that there is now a law saying prohibiting us from employing young people, if this happens and such a thing happens to that person in your custody, this is going to be your reward. Do you think?
You know, I would always be one calling, advocating that, you know, it's not enough for justice to be done,
Right.
but justice must be seen to have been done.
Right.
Well, you don't do justice secretly. You do it. The idea of it is not necessarily to expose the criminal or whatever that, you know, that was against the law, but is to send a strong message to society that, see, there's always a consequence. If people know that this is what would happen to me, this is the end goal, this is the end of it. If I do this thing, if I'm caught, people would be more cautious in what they do. Now, to the why is I think also the media have to do more in following up some of these issues as stories are developing.
Given how long we have awaiting trials.
You see, I think it's something, a particular case. You may not follow up all the cases, but there may be some cases that probably will interest a particular media house, a particular journalist, a particular anchor, and feel like, okay, this matter, I'm going to follow it up to the end, you know, and you keep following. It may take long. You may not follow it. You may not give a report on it every day, but periodically, you know, and it will require some work also, making the right contact to know who is in charge. So you can periodically put a call. At times, maybe you put a call, your call is not taken, you know, you persist that you must know how this matter ends. So that would also help. Then there are agencies like NAPTIP, which is a government agency, but there's other agencies like civil societies can also take it upon themselves. If matters like, if I'm a civil society that my thematic area includes rescuing children that has been abused and this type of issues come up, I can say, okay, let's even follow this matter up and see, you know, like I said, you may not follow up every matter, but by the time even people know that you have a record of tracking issues, they would know that, oh, if I do this thing, this body would never let me go until the matter is settled.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. South African pastor Joshua Makaleka has come under fire after his prophecy that the rapture would occur between 23rd and 24th September 2025 failed to materialize. Mr. Makala had, during a July interview on Sinzi, declared he was a billion% sure of the date, claiming Jesus told him the rapture would align with Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. The date I have come with is the final one, and there is no other date. The gospel has reached the world, he said at the time, warning that no human being on this earth is ready for what is coming. The prediction sparked panic among some South Africans, with believers resigning from jobs, selling properties, and even cashing out pensions in preparation. The failed prophecy has since triggered a storm of criticism online. Many users are calling on the pastor to publicly apologize for misleading people, with others demanding the return to the same place where he said it to retract his claims. Mr. Makela's prediction came weeks after Ghanaian preacher Ebo Jesus claimed the world would be submerged in 3 years of continuous rainfall beginning 25th December, leading him to begin building a modern-day ark. Let's talk about religion and society. What are your thoughts on this report?
For a Christian, we all expect the second coming of Jesus Christ and the rapture of the church. And the Bible clearly gives some signs that that will precede the coming of Jesus Christ. Jesus himself also said, the hour and the day no man knows except the Father. Now, that doesn't mean that people cannot maybe fairly have an idea, because if he has given the signs that this is what would happen, if I give you a sign that, oh, if you come visiting me, when you get to my street, these are some of the things you will see. So when you approach such place and you begin to see some of those signs, I said, you begin to wonder if you have gotten close to me. So depending on how certain you are with those signs I gave you, which you have seen, you can confidently, for example, if you approach the gate I told you that after the transformer you see 1 tree, after the tree you see a purple tree, after the purple tree you see the black gate. So by the time you see all these things and get to the black gate, you probably will put a call and say, I'm at the gate.
Right.
Now, but there would also be a danger if there are other places that have such features, and maybe, and you see those features and say you're at the gate, I come out and you're not there. So, what I think is this: each time people claim that they have been misled by a Christian preacher, I'm not talking of religion, I'm talking about the Christian preacher. You see, if you must live by the Christian tenet, make an effort to study the Bible for yourself. The Bible talked about the Berean Christian. They were commended. Why were they commended? After they have been taught, they went back to confirm if those things were so. So if you would have believed that man, you probably would have gone back to check if the scriptures did say the rapture will happen during the Jewish New Year, like he said, and check it and believe it. So if he should apologize to those who believed him,
would they get their jobs back? What about their pensions? What about their houses?
That was their decision to make. Because even when Jesus talked about the coming of Jesus, I remember sometime in the Bible, Paul warned certain, I think it was in Thessalonians also, and he called them foolishness, because some people said, oh, Jesus was coming soon, so they stopped what they were doing, they stopped working, and he warned, he said, if any man stop work, if you will not work, don't eat. So, and when Jesus spoke, he even said something like it will be like every other day, people will go about their business. So there was no injunction in the Bible where the Bible said, oh, because rapture is going to happen in 7 days, you resign from your work. I want to ask, if you resign from your work and cash out your pension, what are you going to do with the pension? Are you supposed to use it in heaven or something? So I think those people have themselves to be blamed. Maybe they were not properly taught to, because yes, Jesus was come, but there was no injunction that you should resign from your job. I mean,
and wait.
Yeah, he can miss if he comes now. We are here. The question that should concern you is, would he find me worthy to go with him? It is not about the location, whether he found me, Zoba, ATN, or somewhere else. If he comes here, we're here, and he found me worthy, you probably find the seat empty while I'm sitting here.
Right.
So you didn't have to. They didn't have to leave their job. That in itself shows a poor understanding of the scriptures.
Why do you think people have let themselves have this poor understanding and being brainwashed so
because
badly?
people have delegated thinking to some other person. As a student of social science, I know about delegated legislation, delegated responsibility, and all that. But I do tell people, I dare to tell people, don't delegate thinking to some other people. Say, I can delegate everything to you, everything and anything to you. Help me do this. Take charge of this for me. But I shouldn't delegate my thinking to you. When it comes to thinking, I shouldn't have a situation where you think for me. I mean, I can trust you that you're a good thinker. Why not do this thing this way? But the final responsibility to accept your thinking lies with me. And it's because why I will accept your thinking or not is because that's your thoughts. I have, sort of reviewed it, which is also a product of thinking, and find that, oh, this is it. I have to work with it. So the consequences of it will now be my. It was originally thinking, but I have accepted it and gone through it critically and accepted it. Yes, counsel, you can talk to people, but don't delegate thinking to other persons. No matter what happens, keep your thinking. That's why I started with talking about those Berean Christians. They were commended. They were not chastised. They were commended that, oh, this is the way to go. After they had been taught, they went back to confirm if those things were so. And if they could do that centuries back, when probably there was no reason. But how are they doing that? But today you have all the materials to go confirm. You have the Bible probably on your phone. You have the hard copy at home. So when the guy tells you Matthew chapter so say so thing, even right there, you can confirm if those things are so. If you fail to confirm, then you have yourself to blame.
Thank you so much for your insights on that report. We wrap it.